Hello and welcome to Absolute Comics. I am, of course, the 50% of the hosts, Sal, and I'm joined today by the lovely and talented Heather Antos from Valiant Entertainment. Heather, thank you so much for being here and talking to us.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. You've been working on a plethora of books. You have. I had the pleasure of working on a little video which highlights some of your work, and you are in it throughout because of all the books you are working on. We're going to talk about some of them and kind of tease them a little bit, and hopefully we can talk more about them than previously, because we're no longer is there like an embargo on whether they're even happening or not.
I know. Yeah, it's always interesting what even just like a month or two difference makes on what you can talk about.
Yeah, comics are awesome because, like, you know, you make a movie, you're planning this whole thing for like a year or two. And then it'll just, the funding falls apart. You don't even, with comics, you could tell an artist, like, we're working on this. They get so excited, they start making art already, like before even a check clears. And then you're like, oh, and then you get to see all this stuff. The problem, of course, being you're sitting on it for however long until you can actually announce it. Now, you're a editor at Valiant Entertainment. Before we actually get into it, I wanted to talk a little bit about being an editor, because I wanted to know, a lot of our viewers, you know, they love comics, but they don't necessarily know every aspect of the industry. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about what an editor is, and then we'll get more specifically into it.
Like,
sure. What do you do? What is an editor?
It's good philosophize.
Yeah.
So it is part-time project manager, part-time producer, full-time therapist. Late night calls, 3 a.m., soothing your talent.
Sure.
You think I'm joking?
I don't.
No, so I always say the closest correlation of a comic book editor, a lot of people think like, oh, the common misconception is a comic book editor is a proofreader, right?
Right. You fix spelling errors.
Yeah. Guess what? That's an actual completely different position. Like, that's a whole different person.
Really?
Yeah. So, like, yes, if I catch proofing stuff, I'll mark it or notate it or whatever. But there is a person whose job it is to copy edit, to proofread.
Right. I'll pass that to them as opposed to doing it.
Like, literally, that's part of the process. No, the closest correlation is, I would say, a TV or film producer.
Right.
Your job is to, source ideas, come up with ideas, pitch ideas, cast that, find the right talent to put it together, organize that talent, manage the budget, help oversee marketing. And it all has to happen by a certain deadline, for better or for worse.
Right.
And you do that for, 15 projects at a time.
Sure. Now, you edit a book, Quantum and Woody. It just dropped not too long ago, the first issue.
Heard of it.
Right. Chris Hastings, whom you were familiar with because you worked with him before on your previous work in another publisher whose name escapes me at the moment. But as I understand it, Hastings is very excited about this series. He's, of course, the humor is not alien to him. And Quantum and Woody, of course, if you're not familiar, is a series about two brothers. It's just about two brothers, and they clang their wrists together to make sure they don't deatomize. And they're the funny, like, redheaded stepchild of the Valiant universe for me.
Yeah,
I love those guys.
They
were my gateway into that universe, outside, of course, of everything else that happened in the 90s. But Chris Hastings is writing that series. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we can expect from this series and why people should pick it up?
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, speaking of things that, like, with comics you can't talk about for, like, forever, literally, it was a year to the day that when Quantum and Woody #1 hit stores, it was a year to the day from when I first called Chris to see if he would feature on the series. Yeah. So literally, we had been sitting on this for an entire year, but because we had such lead up time, which not every publisher does. Most publishers don't have this much lead up time. Like, the entire first 6 issues are already completely written. We've gone back and, like, tightened them all up. I was able to get Ryan Brown, who's a crazy, literally crazy, good artist. His stuff is weird. Because we had so much lead up time, he was able to properly plan and everything. And, both Ryan and Chris, I'm a huge fan of. But yeah, Quantum and Woody, you know, they too were my gateway drug into Valiant.
Really?
Yeah, being a huge Deadpool fan. Yeah. One of my friends who was a huge Valiant fan was like, "Oh, you should check them out. If you like Deadpool, you'll like these guys."
Yeah.
And Chris actually pitched on the 2012 or 2014, like the relaunch of Quantum and Woody.
Yeah.
That James Asmus wrote. He pitched on it originally. So it's like a nice little like coming together.
Yeah.
A family.
Right.
So yeah,
That's
no,
awesome.
one of the focuses of this series though is we feel like a lot of times, you know, as you said, it's the redheaded stepchild. No one really takes the book seriously. No one really takes them seriously. I don't think they even take themselves seriously.
No, that's what they shouldn't.
Right. And so for this, we really wanted to focus on, you know, of course they're still going to have fun, but we want to make sure you care about them.
Yeah. Well, because it's easy to assume that doing a humor book, you rely too heavily on the humor, you rely too heavily on the gimmick. You kind of sacrifice character and story. But with this, there actually is a through line. Like, it's not just gags, which, you know, I mean, you'd expect the dude who wrote Dr. McNinja to stick in the gags. And they're there, but it's still...
No, they're there, but like, we're doing a nice fun thing where, you know, normally it's Quantum is the one with the mission and Woody's the one who's tagging it along. And we kind of flip things on their heads. Woody now has this new superpower where he's calling the shots and Quantum's going along and is a little unsure about what's happening, but like things seem to be working out okay. So he's going to keep going along with it for now, even though there's evil children about that want to murder him. Who knows what's going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, we're introducing, you know, new villains. In issue 1, we introduced the Kammerjäger family, which is, as Chris pitched it to me, the evil Brady Bunch.
Yep.
And in issue 2, which will be coming out very soon, we're introducing a new mentor figure for the Henderson brothers, called The Apprehension.
Yes, I remember teasing about that. I'm very excited about it. It's out now. Check it out. It's just a good series. I mean, not to turn it into a commercial, but like I do like that series. I like Chris Hastings. I've always loved Quantum and Woody, and I've always been waiting for them to kind of get their due. I'm hoping that this is kind of their time. You know?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, if you want to get literary, they're like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of the Valiant universe. You know,
perfect. No, I think that's a perfect.
I mean, some would argue Archer and Armstrong, but I compare them more to Vladimir and Estragon.
Oh God, now we're getting deep.
I know, really, the Bill and Ted of the Valiant universe. But moving on to more serious kind of characters and big shifts. Manowar, you're editing Manowar.
Let me tell you, walking into Valiant my first day over a year ago, and basically my first week in the office, they're like, "You're going to launch Manowar. This is you get the flagship title." That was more terrifying than my first week at Marvel and saying you have to write the opening crawl to Star Wars #1. Like,
well, because one is like a lifelong dream, and the other one is like a daunting task that has a lot of weight on it.
Exactly.
And you'd be surprised which one is which. But this Exo thing, it's dope.
Yeah. It's and like superhero, like hardcore superhero stuff, like isn't really my normal wheelhouse of books that I do.
Sure.
I've touched on a lot of superhero stuff, but this, sci-fi superhero epic is not my top experience. Sure. I'm good with sci-fi and space epics. I've done the Star Wars front of it, but they're two very different things. And this character has such huge legacy. Like, I was very, very intimidated.
Yeah.
Matt Kent and Robert Venditti have done such amazing things with this character. How do I live up to that? How do I meet those expectations? How do I, how do we come up with something that's new and fresh and really adds to the legacy of these characters? And, what I think Dennis Hallam has come up with is completely different than anything that we've seen before. But also, I think humanizes Eric in a modern setting in a way that no one has ever attempted.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think that part of your strength for this series is that Exo looks like a superhero. You know, he could be construed as being your typical superhero in this universe because he flies and he's got a cool suit of armor. But like that book could be anything. There's so many different places you could take that character, and they have gone. And it's so incredible to see where you've changed it and taken it, because having seen a little bit of it, I can say that like it's pretty cool, and it's very different from where it had been, and but it still maintains the spirit of the character and maintains that direction, and the versatilities within that character. Like you can do something else with it. You don't have to try and be like, okay, how do I not step on the toes of X superhero or Y superhero? You can literally just go like, well, I mean, yeah, he looks like, he flies around, but like he also is this, the gimmick of Exo Manowar, a man out of time in a spacesuit, there's a lot of room to breathe to that character. And I think Hallam's doing a good job with it, and I think that you intelligently took it in a direction that it needed to go, because otherwise you run the risk of retreading. You know. No,
and I agree 100% with that. You know, when I was first really reading up on the character and the history and talking, I talked with Matt Kinn about, heavily with the character. I reached out to Venditti, and one of the things that I really took away from everything is, yes, Eric is a Visigoth warrior. Yes, he has this cool suit of armor and can fly and shoot things, but like, what is it that makes him special? And it's not necessarily that it's armor, it's that it's a sentient being that is the armor. Like Shanhara is what makes this book different than a Conan, different from a Thor, and different from an Iron Man. Yeah. Like, she's not an AI. She's a living, breathing being.
Yeah.
And so because of that, the two of them are people out of time. And so there's this intimacy that they share as just partners, that they don't have with anyone else literally in the universe. Yeah. And so we really wanted to explore like what that relationship looks like and what that means. Because it's not going to be gung-ho all the time.
Sure. No, when you have any two people working together, they're not always going to agree. And taking those two characters and putting them on this new journey, you're going to have story potential and drama, which is going to work, I think, deliciously for this character.
Yes.
Now here's a question about Exo. Did you play the video game?
I haven't. It's funny. The video game has been brought up so much recently in the office, and I'm not really sure why. Like,
I think because
keep hearing
it's the only one. Like, their Exo. Can you believe there is a PlayStation game? Like,
it's crazy. Yeah. I never played that. I wasn't allowed to play video games as a kid.
What?
Is my defense. I know.
That sucks.
So, I read a lot. So.
All right. Okay.
And then I became an editor, so I guess it worked out.
Fair enough.
But yeah, no, I didn't. I heard it's like impossible to find.
Yeah, it is. The comic book tie-ins are not.
No, they have tie-ins to the video game.
Oh, do they ever? Yeah, I have. I think 2 of them, and woof, because they use the video game graphics to make the comics. So it's like, oh, that sucks.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
That's a choice.
Well, back then they were like, "This looks amazing." There's no other book that looks like this.
It's never been done before. Yeah.
Just because it's never been done before doesn't mean you have to do it.
Right.
Just listen to Ian and Malcolm. Now, okay, so we've covered comedy, we've covered slice of life. The Final Witness is something that I remember you were like really hyped about talking about because it's something that Valiant's never done.
Yes.
What is the Final Witness? What, like for those who have no context, what even is this?
So it's like if Zodiac took place in a superhero universe.
Oh, okay.
So, one of my passions is true crime. I'm obsessed with murder, I guess that's how my boyfriend describes it.
That's his like warning to everybody. She's obsessed with murder. It's like, oh, that's cute. No, please.
Well, so when everyone was watching the Oscars last weekend, I was watching the documentary on Wrinkles the Clown. Like, this is
What is it? Can I just say, what is it about clown names that are so bizarre? Like Wrinkles? Mm-hmm. There's nothing endearing about that whatsoever. Like,
well, that's the point. Do you know who Wrinkles the clown is?
I actually don't. My clown death, context is Pennywise and maybe John Wayne Gacy, but that's as far as it goes. All right, who's Wrinkles the clown? Let's take a minute to talk about this.
All right, we'll take a minute. Sorry to whoever's editing.
No, you can leave it in. This is.
So Wrinkles the clown was call this number, the scary, like Google this. You need to Google what he looks like.
Okay.
And so it's a clown who you call this number and parents would call it to show up to scare their children.
No, this is horrifying. No.
And so like literally went viral. Of course, this took place in Florida.
Oh, yes, where anything can happen.
Where anything could happen. But like literally the threat was, if you're misbehaving, if you're be bad, I'm calling this clown. Oh. And he would never touch anyone. He would just show up, right? He would just be there. But like, you have interviews with these children and they're like, my parents did this and now I have padlocks on my windows. I have padlocks on my closet. I have padlocks on my door. I got rid of my bed. I sleep on the floor because I'm so terrified of this.
Oh my God.
Like it's psychological torture. And meanwhile, they're interviewing the guy who plays who is Wrinkles.
Yeah.
And he's just like, yeah, well, when I was a kid, my dad used to beat me with a belt, but you can't do that. You can't beat sense into your kids these days. So I'm just doing my job.
Oh my God. What? So you just scare them? Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I did during the Oscars night.
I think you may have had more fun than I did because I did watch the Oscars and I would much rather read up on this bag-headed horror clown.
But anyway,
Final Witness.
That's my hobby.
Right on.
And so the Final Witness has kind of been an idea that's been brewing in my head for the last couple of years. Like I really want to do like a true crime, true serial killer story in a superhero world. And I wanted it to be crime noir first and superhero second. So, if you're a fan of like the old pulp novels and crime noir films and like a Zodiac, if you're a fan of Seven and Fight Club and the Game and like Saw, even those slow burn tension building stories, this is definitely something for you to check out. We follow a detective, a journalist, and a new superhero as they're all trying to figure out who's the person causing committing these terrible murders that are happening in San Francisco. And it builds to something that will forever change how you view superheroes, how you view supervillains, and how you view the Valiant universe.
Cool. This is, of course, written by Ray Fawkes. Where did you, why this creative team?
Yeah, so Ray Fawkes and Jeremy Hahn. Yeah, they're both, it's a writer and artist that I'm a huge fan of. I have spent my entire career like trying to find the right project to work with each of them on, and like serendipitously, it all worked out to be the same one. I'm a huge fan of Ray's work. Gotham by Midnight specifically is what made me think of him for this project.
Sure.
And Jeremy Hahn's work on The Beauty, again, like very gritty, street level sci-fi horror book.
Very grounded. It's like, there's nothing, it can be fantastical, but it's still real. Like you still buy it.
Oh, and the world that Jeremy has built visually is just like, it's absolutely incredible. Like you look at, there's a scene that takes place in the first issue in an airport, and like, you can tell that each and every single one of those people that he drew has like a real life and have a real identity. Like, it's like when you go to the bar on a first date and you're just like, oh, let's make up like who these people are and give them a backstory. Like you can do that with the people in this comic because they just look so visioned.
Yes. That's really cool. Wow. All right, cool. That's a dope idea.
Yeah.
I have no transition for that.
If you like murder, check it out.
That's going on the cover. If you like murder, check it out.
Check it out.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, there is a kind of dearth of mystery, horror, superhero stuff. So it's kind of filling a niche because I know there is an audience out there for it. Because I hear a pitch all the time, people being like, I want to see like a true crime kind of thing, and it's like, the other guys are kind of afraid to do it, and they can't really.
Well, I feel like, like Batman is the closest. He's a detective, obviously. But unfortunately, I feel like because of the legacy of these characters in these universes, it's so focused on the character rather than the story.
Yes.
And this is something that that works because these are new characters and because, we are discovering it the same time they are discovering it, and we're learning about them the same time they are, we as readers are just as much a part of the story as the characters are.
Yeah.
And we don't know there's no legacy to them. So I think that kind of helps in this perspective.
Yeah. I think that's actually, that's like a very distinctly Valiant thing. Because like there is, while there is a 30-year history for Valiant, it's also kind of like, for a lot of people, when they pick up a Valiant book today, that's their first introduction to these characters. So for them, there is no legacy. And so they're like, when they picked up Brett Booth and Tim Seeley's Bloodshot, for them, that's like their first Bloodshot, like ever.
For sure.
And so there is no context for that. And I feel like for a lot of people, that is kind of like the Valiant introduction. And it's a great like introduction because they're like, this is very, clearly there's some thought that went into these characters. And it's like, 30 years worth of thought, but you didn't know that. But that's a distinctly Valiant thing for this book, even though it's doing something totally different. Well, that's the thing. Like, we literally, Exo, dude from the past in a spacesuit, Quantum and Woody, brother combo comedy series with powers, like Final Witness, horror, not horror, like true crime, like investigative, mystery superheroics. And then you get into something like Shadowman. Yeah. And Shadowman not only has the history, but also you're going full horror with this series. And you couldn't have picked a better team to make this series. I'm so excited we're going to get a chance to talk about it. I'm sure you are too, because you can finally really
talk about it,
gush about it.
This is literally my first time talking about it.
What? No. Wait. Exclusive access.
You get my first time talking.
Hey.
We're recording this a week before it's announced, but this isn't coming out until then. Again, I'm a huge horror fan, just as much as I am crime, but as we stated before, like the big two really don't touch on those genres. They like to think they do, I think, like they'll tap on it, but it's still like superhero focused, front and center. Like, that's true. Which always drove me crazy about Marvel working so much with Cullen Bunn, who is like the best horror writer in the industry today. And Marvel has the best, catalog of monsters and Yeah. No, I know. But that's neither here nor there.
No, my wife Tiffany loves horror and she loves Cullen Bunn. So like she was the person who bought Monsters Unleashed. Yeah. And it was the thing where she's like, every book, she's like, oh my God, I picked up this Marvel book and it's amazing. Oh, it's written by Cullen Bunn. Who'd have thought? Yeah. Like, it's that one. So, but like, oh my God. But Cullen Bunn, so Cullen Bunn, incredible writer, great storyteller. When you take him off the leash and really give him horror, he's going to deliver it. Yeah. But that's only 50% because like, then you have somebody like John Davis Hunt drawing this book. And I can say that I've seen pages from this book. It's so good looking. Yeah. Like I reviewed his series, The Wildstorm. And I was like, okay, this guy is unbelievable. Now issue 1, he's given stuff to draw as opposed to like the previous series where there's not a lot going on for the first 8 or 9 issues. Then this, oh my God. Like, I don't know. It must be so exciting to have this kind of team working on a book like this. Like,
Literally, this is the book I've dreamed of my entire life. Like I just got another handful of layouts from John today, and like I'm just giddy. Like I was telling you before we started recording, I get so mad at how good he is.
Right. It's not fair.
it honestly is so unfair. But yeah, no, Colin and I had been talking about doing a horror book together for years and years and years. We just could never find a way to make it happen at Marvel. And then, I get to Valiant, and, when I walk in, I'm like, dibs on Quantum and Woody, dibs on Shadowman. And I was like, I want to do horror. This is a character where they've never really done horror before.
Yeah.
He's really never had shadow abilities before. So we're going to make that happen.
Right.
And I went to Colin and I was like, here's the status quo. Do whatever you want.
Oh.
Like, give me the craziest horror, like true horror book that you can do.
Yeah.
And it's so good what he's doing. Where every single issue is a standalone one shot.
Oh, no kidding.
It's very clearly building to something bigger. So
cool.
One of the things that I think has made Shadowman struggle so much in the past is he's been so stuck to New Orleans.
Right.
And I think New Orleans has been I think Shadowman has been kind of weighed down by the New Orleans identity a little bit too much.
Right. Well, there's, clearly the origins are there, that's his history, but but we could do more.
The dead side is everywhere. It's not just in New Orleans.
Exactly.
And so every issue we see Shadowman in a completely different location.
Oh, okay.
So, and we get to see how the dead side changes based on the locations that he's going to.
Oh, that's cool.
So issue 2, we see him in Enoch, Arizona, and you get kind of like sand desert demons. As a tease.
That's a cool idea. Because now my mind is a whirl with possibilities. Each issue, you take them to a different location, and those locations, the reflection of the dead side, and what comes out of that. That's cool. Now, where did Davis Hunt fit in? Where did he come from? How did you go okay? Did you just look at Wildstorm and go, him, come over? Or were you did you know him already? What was
I knew him already. I was actually a huge fan of John. Previous to his Wildstorm stuff. I don't know if you can see it behind me, but I have this lovely Jenny cover behind me from a series called The Clean Room by Gail Simone and John Davis Hunt. And that series is one of my favorite horror series of the past decade, specifically because of John's art. And his art is so clean, and it makes you feel safe and comfortable. And then he draws the most terrifying, horrible, grotesque things. And John does not stop for any detail. He draws every single tooth, every single scale, every single, he does not stop.
No, there's a literal beauty with what he's doing. Where everything is beautiful and awesome looking, but the detail's still there. Some artists where if they capture a realism, it's almost that's too real, because you're capturing single moments of people. So maybe they're sneezing or they're flicking their face or whatever, and it's it just doesn't. You're I don't want to look at that all the time. And so there's this idealized kind of figure or person that you're drawing when it comes to art. This is it's real, but it's also real. Gorgeous. Everything is just this, but a beauty in horror, the demons. I don't want to. It's
so I was thinking about this earlier today when I was looking at pages. Horror movies are famous for jump scares,
right?
For better or for worse, they're famous for them, and that's something that how do you capture in a comic book?
Yeah.
Because you can't really control how that happens, but John can somehow do that because of how safe you feel in his art.
Yes.
That when you turn and see something horrific, you really, it takes you out for a second. You're just oh my God, I was not expecting that. Even though I knew this is a horror book, I know I'm in a horror movie and I know this stuff happens, but
right.
it's so incredible. Jordi Belair on colors, she's another, we worked on Redlands together, another horror book that she wrote, and no one gets mooed the way that Jordi does with colors.
Yeah.
And she takes, she's so good. It's so good. Like, if you've never read a comic before in your life, like, truly pick up this comic.
It'll spoil you. It's
yeah.
What sucks is it's May.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, you've already got to see it, so what are you complaining about?
That's fair. All right, you got me there. But like, we've hyped it up so much, and I don't, I don't do this for fun. Like, I mean this. Like, it's really, it's John Davis Hunt. You just Google his work, and you're like, oh shit, I want to see that. And you do. Trust me. This is a book where, like, I remember, Shadowman. I was like, I have a couple of books of Shadowman, and I was like, hey, he's cool. The Dead Side's a neat idea. But this is like a must-grab book. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, this is, I am giddy every time I get something in for this book. Like, I truly cannot wait. I can't wait to, like, pick up this book in a comic shop, and I'm going to get it for free. I'm still going to go pick it up because it's like, it's so good.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. That's it. That's all I have.
No, it's just awesome. This is, and it's funny how different every book that you're overseeing is, but you can see the through line and from your passions and from your interests. It's like twisted horror, humor. There's something there. There's the subtext of which we can explore for hours. But let's try to focus on the topic.
My therapist has
it's a whole. Just like here's a bunch of books. Just read these, and it'll all come together. It'll all crystallize. But I mean, and that's just until the summer. Mm-hmm. Any other, you have to be excited for 2020 and where we're heading into the next year. It's an exciting time. It sounds like Valiant is really pushing it, but in a good way. We're stepping up.
We've got some pretty savage things coming this year.
Oh, what? That's a very interesting choice of words.
We've got some really, really exciting things coming this summer. That are more wild than civilized. But I don't know. That's bad. I'm mad at myself for that. But no, we do have a lot of really exciting things. There's some stuff that I don't know if even you know about.
No, this is it. This is all the stuff I've got.
That's where it is. Yeah, no. So we've got some stuff that literally just came in last week that, like, I literally, when I saw it, I just stood up and said, holy fuck, that's a comic book.
Yeah.
So
that's exciting.
We've got some huge creators coming to the Valiant stable that are brand new and are very big in comics, and I can't wait. We're definitely forging new horizons, and it's an exciting time.
That's awesome. It's an exciting time. It's an exciting place for us as purchasers of comics. I can't even imagine what it must be like on the creative side. Number one, to be able to help bring these things into the real world, but also to have to sit on them for however long it takes to release them. And having seen a little bit behind the curtain, I can say that there's some really there's some stuff I was like, oh, I didn't expect that Valiant would go there yet, or at all. And it's like it's cool. It's just an exciting time. So that's the takeaway. It's just like, pick these up and check them out. I guess is the takeaway. I don't know. It's a good time and it's cool. Yeah. It's exciting. I don't know. What do you want to? You do anything after this? What's going on?
I don't know. I have a script I have to read after this, so dope. That's what I'm doing. I'm editing comics.
Hey, but it's late at night. You're living the dream. You're working from home. You're working long after you've left the office. What a life. Yeah, it's me too. So it's
yeah, there you go. There you go.
It's great. Just, but it's funny. It's like comics are funny because like I don't know why, but it's like it gets in your blood, and you're just kind of like, even if you are like, it's like 8:00 at night and you're reading scripts, and you're editing or you're reading, or it gets into you, and you don't think of it in that way. It's more like I get to do this, not that I have to do this.
Yeah,
and that's really cool. It's an exciting time. So check them out, I guess. Heather, thank you so much for being here and for joining us. Hopefully, this will not be the last time we see you here on Absolute Comics. But if it is, it was a hell of a conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, no, thanks for having me. This is super fun, and I'm sure I'll be back soon.
Oh yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming down the pike through the Valiant. I don't know how to mix that metaphor. I'll just say thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We'll see you guys next time here on Absolute Comics. Heather Antos, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.